State Representative Tram Nguyen represents Andover, Boxford, North Andover, and Tewksbury. She is a Vietnamese American immigrant. Elected to the House in 2018, she is the first Vietnamese American woman not only elected to the Massachusetts House, but elected into public office in general in the Commonwealth. Previously, she was breaking personal glass ceilings as the first in her family to graduate from college and from law school. She worked at Greater Boston Legal Services, where she advocated on behalf of individuals needing legal aid, including children, the elderly, and domestic violence survivors. Representative Nguyen is currently Vice Chair of the Labor and Workforce Development Committee and a huge proponent of measures to deal with issues of racial and economic justice. Representative Nguyen, thank you for attending our rally to accept your Caring Bear Award.
Thank you so much, Lydia, for that wonderful introduction, and as well, thank you to Michael and Nancy for coordinating this, and for to the Providers Council for this prestigious award. I'm truly honored, and it means such a great deal to me that the Caring Force is recognizing my work in human services. And also want to do a shout out and congratulations to my colleague, Senator Lesser, for his award today. I so appreciate hearing from all the speakers today, and just so glad to see such a great turnout, and also seeing so many of my colleagues on here who also support the caring for workforce, which is just so important. First and foremost, I'm so grateful for all the work that you do in human services. As someone who worked in the human services sector my entire career, I intimately know how important your work is, and how vital what you do each and every day, and how it is especially crucial during the pandemic as you serve as essential workers, helping to keep our Commonwealth running, essentially. As the senator said, you all continue to be there for our people who need it most. And so this award really belongs to all of you. And as you can see, I have my bear right next to me. I also have the award here. We're working from home, so I can't wait to go back into the office to display this. But it means a lot, and it just makes me smile too whenever I see this. As Senate President mentioned earlier, it is one of those things where we are all in this together, and working families have always been a priority for me, especially essential workers. You've worked so hard in this past year, putting your own health at risk to serve others throughout this pandemic. And that's why it's important for me to support the legislation that you've put forth to provide essential workers with the protections and resources that you need. I am a proud co-sponsor of H.266, the Student Loan Repayment Program for human service workers. Those of you who choose to work in the human services sector often work the longest hours for the lowest pay, but you do it out of compassion and caring because you know you are making a difference. And we want to encourage more people to get into this field by reducing the debt that you are carrying from your education. And so I wholeheartedly support this and will continue to work with my colleagues to move this legislation forward. I'm also so pleased to co-sponsor H.237, an act relative to fair pay for equal work, which, as so many of the speakers have mentioned, increases the rate for reimbursement for human service providers, ultimately bringing it up to 100% reimbursement by 2027. And we need to do what we can to eliminate this pay disparity that exists, because it's just unfair. If you're doing the same work, if you have the same credentials, there should not be this disparity. And so in this session, as in previous sessions, my focus has been on the human services side and supporting workers like you. I'm proud to partner with my colleagues in filing several bills to address economic justice by helping workers and working families. For instance, I have an occupational presumption bill that ensures workers have paid time off if you get sick at work, especially if you contract COVID-19 or become exposed to COVID-19 while on the job. I've also worked on legislation to strengthen our anti-retaliation laws to make sure that workers feel safe filing workers' compensation without fear of retaliation. We want to look after the health and safety of our workers, not only during the pandemic, but beyond this, because we are still learning about the effects of COVID-19, and we want our frontline and essential workers to have the protections and benefits that they deserve. And so as previously stated, the wages for human services workers can be very low. And we've seen during the pandemic that some of our workers have had to be furloughed or laid off. And that's why I filed legislation to increase unemployment benefits so that low wage workers can qualify for unemployment benefits that they otherwise wouldn't qualify for. That way, the way that the unemployment system is calculated can sometimes shut out many of the workers, especially our women, people of color. And so we want to make sure that we are creating a fair system where everyone can access the benefits that they deserve. And so in addition to many of these workers related bills, I have other bills that seek to just help us not only get through the pandemic, but thrive after that. And I am just so excited that so many of my colleagues, many of whom are on here, are supportive of many of these measures. And so as someone who, as introduced, who came from the legal services sector, I worked on many of the issues that you all, in addition to these two bills, you've been advocating for to help people in our Commonwealth, to make sure that we are uplifting the most vulnerable among us. And I've worked on so many bills that I think many of you are familiar with, like paid family medical leave, bilingual education, and earned income tax credit. These are things that would bring opportunity to those who are struggling to get by. And I know I'm not alone in doing this. It's because of the persistent advocacy groups like yours that these important measures were successful. And your actions really make a difference in countless lives, like many of my former clients and the populations that you serve. And so now with your one united and unwavering voice, please amplify those voices so that legislators can hear your stories. It is you who can bring some insight and fresh perspective to thousands of bills that we handle each session, but especially these two bills and how they intimately affect you. And your stories was just very compelling. And I urge you to continue to do that, to reach out to my colleagues to express exactly why these bills are so impactful. And so your advocacy really matters. Our elected officials need to hear from you. You need to give us the information, the tools, and the stories that we need to then share with our colleagues, to tell them why these bills matter, why what you do matter, and just how many lives will be are impacted by your very work. And so I just urge you to reach out to us to advocate for Massachusetts that's like a community like yours, a community of compassion and friendship, and community rooted in social justice and equality. And my colleagues and I need your help in fighting for social, racial, and economic justice, for housing, transportation, healthcare, education, healthy families, and so much more. We need your stories, we need your enthusiasm, we need your passion, we need your drive, your activism, and your vision to build a more inclusive community and Commonwealth where we can look after our most vulnerable neighbors. And so the organizations and the Providers Council and all of you work hard to keep people through, to help people throughout the spectrum of human need. And in a crisis, people often say, look to the helpers, and every single one of you can call yourselves helpers. You have done so much for so many, especially this past year. And it's truly an honor to represent you, to serve you, and to work with you to make positive change in our Commonwealth. So thank you so much for this great honor. And excuse me, I have 3 dogs. And so this is what you're hearing in the background, but really glad to be able to join you today.